Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for joining our webinar today on driving digital skills development. I'm Bryce Hartley, a Market Engagement Manager at the GSMA's Mobile for Development Foundation, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Lonnie Jacobs, an Insights Manager.
Hello, everyone. Looking forward to doing the session with you today.
Both of us work on digital skills as a means to achieve greater digital inclusion, and hope today's session will provide you with an overview of the research we've conducted in this area and how we've applied it to initiatives that we support. Very importantly, we hope this webinar will help you identify synergies between our work, your organization, and opportunities for collaboration. We want to make today's webinar as interactive and engaging as possible. So please make use of the chat function, introduce yourself, and ask questions. We'll try and answer these towards the end of our session with some dedicated time for questions and answers. Next slide, please. So before we get started, I thought it'd be useful to share an overview of the purpose of today's session. We'll share some key insights related to mobile digital skills, how we've applied these learnings to our Mobile Internet Skills Training Toolkit, or MIST for short, an overview of how you can leverage the materials in the toolkit and learn from our partners' best practices, including most recently MTN's DataSmart campaign, and some tips on how to make trainings more gender inclusive. Next slide, please. Before Lonnie dives into our research, I thought it'd be useful to provide an overview of the challenge and how we as an organization approach it. Currently, 4 billion people, or a little bit of over half of the world's population, is connected to mobile internet and all the life-changing benefits it brings, including improved communication abilities, access to information and education, health services, financial services, business opportunities, and more. Among the 49% that are not connected to mobile internet, 6% live in an area without mobile internet coverage, which we refer to as the coverage gap, as you can see on the left. The coverage gap has been decreasing swiftly as a result of new infrastructure and technological solutions. However, the rate at which people have been adopting mobile internet has been a lot slower. Arguably, this is because the barriers people face to using mobile internet are especially challenging to address. As a result, 3.4 billion people, or 43% of the population, live within the footprint of mobile broadband but are not using mobile internet. We refer to this as the usage gap, and the focus very much of our work on digital skills. The GSMA's Mobile for Development Foundation is committed to addressing these challenges with a focus on underserved populations in lower and middle income countries, in particular women and people in rural areas. We tackle these challenges through a mix of advocacy, market engagement, and insights. Our advocacy team focuses on government and policy, market engagement on partnerships to support implementation of relevant initiatives. And insights drives our thought leadership within the ecosystem and informs the support that market engagement provides. We would like to thank the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office of the United Kingdom and the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency for their support funding this work. Now my colleague Lonnie will take you through some of our insights on digital skills.
Thank you, Bryce, and hello again, everyone. So firstly, I would like to expand slightly on the usage gap, as this explains our focus on digital skills. So the usage gap, as mentioned by Bryce, refers to the 3.4 billion people who live within the footprint of mobile broadband but are not accessing mobile internet services. The usage gap varies across regions, but as you can see in the chart on the right, the greatest usage gap is in South Asia at 61%, followed by Sub-Saharan Africa at 53%. Thus, we can see that this usage gap remains a key issue. Next slide, please. The GSMA has therefore conducted research into the barriers that people face to adopting and using mobile internet. We've identified 5 key barriers, which you can see here on the screen, that we believe are important to address. These are access, affordability, relevance, knowledge and skills, and safety and security. Next slide, please. However, of those 5, we found that a lack of literacy and digital skills are among the biggest perceived barriers to adoption in low and middle income countries among mobile users who are aware of mobile internet but do not use it. For example, 36% and 41% of users surveyed in Mozambique and India, respectively, reported digital skills and literacy as the most important barrier to mobile internet use in the 2020 GSMA Consumer Survey. This provides the background for why at GSMA, understanding the digital skills barrier and how to address it is so important to us. Next slide, please. But before we go any further, it's important to ensure that we all have the same understanding of what we mean by mobile digital skills. At the GSMA, we define mobile digital skills as the knowledge and skills required to effectively and safely use a mobile device and mobile services, including mobile internet. Skills are defined as the abilities needed to engage in use of mobile devices and services. These range from the technical skills required to operate mobile devices and services to the cognitive and non-cognitive skills needed to engage in activities such as communication, content creation and evaluation, and also with concepts like privacy and safety. Effective use is defined as having the knowledge and skills to use mobile devices and services in ways that help the individual to achieve their goals or to lead the kinds of lives that they value. So this is a very user-centered definition, which focuses on the individual user's goals. And then finally, safe use is defined as having the knowledge and skills to protect mobile devices, personal data and privacy, and well-being in digital environments. This is drawn particularly from the European Digital Competence Framework for Citizens, or DigComp, and specifically the safety competence within it. Next slide, please. So GSMA has done a range of research aiming to better understand the mobile digital skills barrier and how to address it. This has included exploratory research aiming to understand people's mobile digital skills needs, also research looking at the digital skills landscape, including skills frameworks and actors that are working in the space, and also evaluations of mobile digital skills training pilots. To see the range of reports that we publish around this subject, please see the GSMA Mobile for Development site as highlighted at the bottom of the screen. Next slide, please. We're also launching a report that you can see here on the left of the slide that summarizes some of the key learnings from our research and application of mobile digital skills initiatives. It highlights the importance of taking 4 steps, and it draws together key insights and learnings for each. So today we're going to focus on the first 2 steps, which are understanding people's needs, goals, and aspirations, and understanding people's learning preferences, opportunities, and barriers. Next slide, please. So thinking about this first step, one of the big barriers to use that we see in our research is that some segments of the population don't see the relevance of mobile internet for themselves. So, for example, they'll say things like, the internet is only for rich people, or it's only for men, or it's only for people who have time to waste. They also associate it only with certain high-profile use cases, such as entertainment, and certain apps, such as Facebook, and then decide that mobile internet is therefore not for themselves. So it's important to identify the priority needs, goals, and aspirations of your target segment. The information that you gather can be used to identify how mobile services, including internet, can help these individuals to meet their goals, and will help you to identify the digital skills that your target segments need in order to use mobile services in these ways. This will enable you to demonstrate to your target segments the relevance of mobile and internet to themselves, and of course will also ensure that your intervention is designed to be relevant to supporting them to develop the digital skills that they require to meet their needs as well. Next slide, please. In relation to this step, the GSMA has established a framework outlining 11 broad categories of life needs that people use mobile internet to support. This can be used to identify which needs are a priority for particular population groups and how mobile internet is or could be used to meet these needs. This framework was applied to research with underserved groups in India and Ghana, and you can find out more about it in the report linked at the bottom of the page or of the slide. As you can see on this slide, though, categories of needs were the same across both countries, but the use cases that aligned with these needs did differ. So, for example, home and lifestyle use cases in Ghana were often more related to things like hairstyling or fashion, whereas in India, they were more focused around family in the home. So, for example, cooking recipes, household administration, such as paying bills, and so on. Internet users in both countries used mobile internet to support their needs across all 11 spheres, but they tended to use it for some needs more often and sooner than others. So we saw that mobile internet was central to fulfilling needs in the dark yellow and the dark blue that you can see on the screen. All mobile internet users in our sample used mobile internet to fulfill at least one of these needs. Social connection and entertainment was central to our sample in both countries, but in India, so were work and income, home and lifestyle, and education needs. Mobile internet played a role for many in fulfilling the needs in the mid-level yellow and blue, and it played a role only for some people in fulfilling the needs in the light yellow or blue, which includes health, travel, and public services. Significantly, saving time and money were priorities for people across all spheres of life needs, and anything that could help them to do that was appreciated. And then finally, for this slide, it's very important to identify which needs are a priority for your target segments, because these may differ depending on your segment. So, for example, in Ghana, women and men in the 29 to 50-year-old age group tended to prioritize work and income. And this was because they typically had a range of financial responsibilities and were supporting other family members in the generations above and below them as well. Next slide, please. A critical next step is understanding the target population's learning preferences, opportunities, and barriers. This will ensure that the intervention is designed to appeal to them and aligns with their life circumstances and the resources that they actually have available to them. So, multiple research studies of ours in low and middle income countries across Africa and South Asia over the last few years have highlighted that people tend to learn mobile digital skills from people in their informal social networks, i.e. their family and their friends. So young people often learn from their peers, and parents often learn with support from their children. And in these instances, they tend to go to these individuals with specific questions like, can you show me how to send a picture to my sister? Or can you show me how to use WhatsApp, for example? Next slide, please. However, a lack of social exposure can also limit opportunities to acquiring mobile digital skills. For example, some people have very few individuals in their social network who own a phone or who know how to use one, and very few people around them to ask for help or guidance in how to use it. Lack of social exposure is also particularly evident among some demographics. For example, research conducted in low-income communities in Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu in India found that women were often expected to stay close to home and tended to have smaller social networks than men, and they were often centered around the domestic space. Among the women sampled, interaction with strangers was often not approved of, and there also needed to be strong justification to travel further afield. Additionally, local social norms also often stigmatized women's use of mobile devices and services, especially mobile internet. So what this meant was that consequently, women and the gatekeepers in their lives, so husbands, fathers, mothers-in-law, and so on, were frequently ambivalent about mobile digital skills training. They had a strong preference for any formal digital skills training to be held in familiar spaces close to the home where women felt safe and comfortable. There was also a preference for group learning with female peers to ensure peer support and also social acceptability of the training among the family and the wider community. In addition to lack of social exposure, a combination of real and perceived barriers also tended to limit people's digital skills development. These can be organized into three broad categories, which you can see on the right of the screen. So at the top here, we have underlying literacies. So this includes language, functional literacy, and also mobile literacy, so i.e. how to use the handset. The second category we can see here is mindset. So this includes issues like lack of confidence. And then the third category we can see at the bottom of the screen includes time, cost, and device-related issues. So this is things like lack of time to learn and also lack of regular access to a device to practice on. Next slide, please. So through the course of our research studies and during the development of our mobile internet skills training toolkit, we've developed some practical principles for the delivery of mobile digital skills training, which you can see here on the screen. So if we focus firstly on the box on the left of the screen, we found new users in the early stages of mobile digital skills development often want and need face-to-face training with practical support. Because lack of confidence to learn can be a significant issue, especially for women and especially in the early stages of learning, encouragement and practical support, such as placing the device into the learner's hands, is very important to build user confidence. Our research has also found that new users often want interactive approaches that allow them to ask questions and to feel reassured that they are performing the activities correctly. However, we've also seen that as users acquire more digital skills, we found that they typically develop more confidence using mobile internet and the mobile more generally, and are often more willing to explore and to learn by themselves. So, for example, they might do this by following on-screen prompts and responding to familiar icons, such as the search bar. Then moving to the second box, which is in the center of the screen, our research has also found that some trainees appreciate having access to other training resources that can support their learning. So, for example, support materials that can be sent to trainees' phones that help them to recap on what they've learned. This might be training videos, for example. These can be seen by some as potentially beneficial when it's combined with face-to-face training, as it can help these individuals to practice in their own time and their own space, potentially after a face-to-face training session. Equally, trainers, such as mobile operator store staff, can find it useful to have visual aids or tools, such as posters or handouts, that recap key points or steps that they can then point the trainees to. And then finally, focusing on the third box on the right of the screen, our research has found that non and new users from low-income communities can often feel quite time poor, and they don't necessarily feel that they can dedicate significant chunks of time to learning, especially if they're not sure of the value of the learning in the first place. They can also quite quickly feel overwhelmed whilst in the process of learning due to the lack of familiarity with the subject matter and also due to the perceived complexity of using mobile and mobile internet. Additionally, when trainers are mobile sales agents, they are often only able to spend a few minutes with each customer or trainee anyway. So we found that training that can be broken into small, digestible chunks, enabling the trainee and the trainer to go at their own pace based on the time that they have available, can be very helpful. This can also enable repetition, and repetition is important to help people to remember what they've learned and also to support them to develop their confidence. And it can help to ensure that trainees don't become too overwhelmed with trying to learn everything all at once. So that concludes a very high level and quick overview of some of our key insights around mobile digital skills. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Bryce to introduce you to our mobile internet skills training toolkit. Over to you, Bryce.
Thanks, Lonnie. And as Lonnie mentioned, one of the key resources that we've developed for partners to address the digital skills barrier is the Mobile Internet Skills Training Toolkit, or MIST for short, which is grounded in all the insights that Lonnie went over and more. The toolkit is a set of Train the Trainer, or TOT materials, for first-time mobile internet users and low data users. The content is divided thematically into 12 modules that you can see on the right of the slide here that focus on different areas to help users get started with using mobile internet. This includes the fundamentals of how to set up their smart or feature phone on Android or iOS, as well as mobile internet safety and privacy concerns and tips, information about how to control data use and costs. We also have a module on accessibility features for people with visual and hearing impediments. And lastly, we developed we developed a few modules on major apps, websites, and services hand in hand with the content creators, including on WhatsApp, YouTube, Google, Wikipedia, and Facebook. These materials can be leveraged and have been leveraged successfully by a range of stakeholders, including mobile network operators, MNOs, civil society, government, social enterprises, and more. Next slide, please. So in terms of the actual form that the toolkit modules come in, and again, these modules are the ones you can see there on the right. Each topic or module is divided, comes with 2 PDF Train the Trainer guides. One of these is a bite-sized version meant to take around 1 to 3 minutes, because as Lonnie mentioned, we've seen there's a lot of research and also our experience supporting implementation that bite-sized short versions are very useful, and given the time-poor nature of so many individuals around the world, including the trainers themselves. So in addition to sort of that quick high-level overview of each of these topics, say on WhatsApp, it'll be about how to maybe send or receive a message, because this is for people that haven't interacted with, say, the app before, or on YouTube, how to very quickly search for a video, or even how to use voice search for people that aren't as comfortable or as capable to type. And then in addition to those bite-sized versions, we have in-depth versions of each of these modules that have about 45 to 60 minutes of content that is usually used in group or classroom style trainings, or also for, say, MNOs. It can be used in a data drive campaign, or also device sales campaign. So the idea is to bring a group of people together in a certain place and go in more details about not just the highest level bits of how to use a single app, but maybe a few more features and answer more of their questions in that setting. So, and then in addition to these PDF training guides, which again are very much trainer focused for to train up a group of sales agents or trainers rather than user facing, each module also has a short 3-minute video, which is a bit more flexible, because it could be used certainly by businesses or governments or training entities. You could play it on a loop in the retail location or training center, but it could also be sent directly to the learner as more of a user-facing content. So what we found in the most successful campaigns is that we've supported, these videos are usually used as a complement to in-person trainings, because as Lonnie said, for a lot of people that are really new to mobile internet, that in-person interaction is really very helpful. But these videos can be a great complement to either drive people to say the training centers or retail or point of sales, and it can also be a way for them to recap after, say, they've done it, or to learn more, because maybe a trainer or agent shows them how to set up and get started with their Android phone or iOS phone, and then because of their interest in this, then they'll watch, say, a video on YouTube or WhatsApp. And then in addition to the videos themselves, we also provide partners with the original scripts for the videos to facilitate subtitling and dubbing and the use on radio and IVR. So, and then all these modules are available in English and French, and we also have select modules are available in a number of other languages, including Swahili, Kinyarwanda, Bengali, Hindi, and more. So certainly take a look on our website to see the full list of which modules are available in which languages. And we also encourage partners to translate the materials into local languages and dialects to increase access, which we found to be extremely helpful. Next slide, please. The toolkit was purposely built to be flexible and adaptable. The materials can be used in a variety of ways and have been successfully delivered by partners through a range of channels. And as Lonnie mentioned, we found that using multiple channels helps to reinforce the message and also optimize the reach and success of a digital skills training campaign. This is because using more channels makes the training more accessible to more people and their diverse needs and circumstances. So with MNOs, certainly a big route has been at the retail level, whether this is through what a lot of MNOs call foot soldiers or one-on-one sort of roaming agents that approach people in the street or in public with information about the training itself, and usually a call to action, like say a data promotion or something like that. Or it could also be at the point of sale, say when a customer comes to a store and they say, I want to top up, say maybe my basic phone, and then the sales agent mentions to them that we also have this great free training, should you, that could really benefit you, and usually trying to make it ideally very pertinent to that individual's life. So that's sort of at the retail location, which we found to be super helpful, or also classroom settings. Again, like I was saying, maybe you have a new device, say a new low-cost smartphone or KaiOS device, and this can be a way to, you can tell customers or users that at a certain time in a certain place, we're going to tell you all about this great new device and how you could really use it, which again makes it more attractive in terms of a sales pitch, because you're really helping them make the most out of a potential purchase. And especially have a service that they're probably a lot less familiar with, having maybe not owned a device like that in the past. And then IVR, as I mentioned, is another route, obviously mostly with MNOs, but could be used certainly by civil society or government if they wanted to. And this has proven very helpful during the COVID-19 pandemic, as most of our partners during this time haven't been as able or at all to interact in person with the customers. And then for a lot of MNOs and say organizations and governments, they'll have say their own app. Like in the case of MNOs, this will be say an app that allows you to do a range of sort of self-service functions, whether this is again things like topping up or sort of checking your data balance. And so a lot of times they'll add say the videos to this app, as then it's it's usually zero rated for a lot of MNOs. And similarly, governments as well, or civil society, they could add it say to their e-government app as another pathway. Or also for a civil society, if they already have an e-learning platform on an app, they can add the videos, and ideally, if possible, zero rate them just to make it more easily accessible. The videos can also be put on YouTube or on, say, websites, and then you could send users links directly to their phone, at least in the case of MNOs, or if you have, a list of target individuals in the case of non-MNOs. And then lastly, radio has been a great way, and again, in particular during COVID-19, but useful even before restrictions came into place, as they can read through, say, the video scripts and then have, say, an interactive tutorial on how do you get started with mobile internet? How do you, and answering, say, some callers' questions. And then lastly, but very importantly, local influencers have been huge in a number of settings, as they really drive, they increase that trust in the training and redirect to the shops or the training centers. So that's been another way to go. Next slide, please. And then, so in general, I'm sure you've gathered a few of the benefits, so I'll just highlight them very quickly. So the main benefit, as you can imagine, to all partners, regardless of your type of organization or company, is that MIST, or this toolkit, drives digital inclusion, which has a number of social and commercial benefits. So and as I said, the toolkit is relevant to a broad range of initiatives that seek to provide people with the fundamental skills they need to get started with using mobile internet. And so all partners can benefit from these resources in the toolkit for free, which you can find on our website. And if you want the source files to say adapt it, certainly get in touch with us and we can provide those. And then we can also offer learnings from supporting other digital skills training. So in the form of sort of free advisory services, project management, and even M&E support, depending on your initiative. And then for MNOs specifically, because of course a huge amount of our experience has been with MNOs and quite successfully, the toolkit can really help increase your data customer base to get more people online, so essentially a data conversion, as well as data revenue. For say marginal users, you can, by showing them an increased use cases of mobile internet, they're more likely to use data services, which is amazing for them because hopefully these increased use cases are really positively impacting their life. And then as an MNO, of course, is very helpful for data revenues. It's proven through a number of initiatives that we've evaluated to provide a quick ROI, which you can read about in our case studies, or you can contact us for details, usually a minimum of 150% in sort of a 3-month pilot. It can be launched pretty quickly, from as quickly as 10 weeks to launch. So from sort of when you get in touch with us to when you could feasibly sort of have that campaign on the ground. Naturally, it increases customer loyalty. And also, very importantly, this sort of initiative with the toolkit supports your connectivity investments, because after all, after spending so much money and effort, say to roll out 3G or 4G or 5G to a new area, this is a way to ensure that more customers see the benefit to mobile internet, that they get started with data services, which then of course is really helpful for those infrastructure investments. Next slide, please. So we've been incredibly lucky to partner with a range of companies and organizations to develop and to deliver the toolkit in 23 countries, which has resulted in more than 21 million people being trained using MIST-based materials. Our breadth of experience can benefit new partners, such as I hope many of you that are on this webinar today, as we're able to draw on a diverse range of experience in supporting these MIST-based trainings in a number of contexts, and which they can then enhance the support we can provide to you in terms of advice and best practices and connections. And also, very importantly, we are continuously developing and adding content, as well as looking to increase the reach of the toolkit. And we are very open to new ideas, in particular, solutions that can deliver impact at scale. Next slide, please. And speaking of certainly partnerships that have delivered impact at scale, we recently came out with a case study that has been with that's on our work with MTN Group and their DataSmart campaign, which has had a huge impact and leveraged MIST content to deliver training to over 18.9 million customers between 2019 and 2020, and a testament to MTN Group's commitment to education and empowering their customers. So there were a number of learnings we were able to capture, which I hope and encourage you to explore in the case study we published, as you can see at the link on the screen. And this was in particular on DataSmart in Cameroon and Benin, and it goes over a bit of the campaign as a whole, which continues till today. So I won't go through all of the learnings, but I would like to highlight numbers 1 and 2, as I think they were really key, and we heard them come up over and over, and in the range of sort of stakeholder interviews and support that we provided to our partners at MTN. So in terms of the first one being really the importance of localization, because again, with skills training, it's so important that you make the training accessible and relevant to your target audience. So it's really a translation. MTN put a lot of resources into translating the materials themselves, and also thinking about how to deliver it in a strategic way that makes mobile internet relevant to each of their customers, including genuinely each of their agents taking the time to sort of on the spot create a very quick use case for that individual. Also, I would say their systematic and really coordinated approach to capturing the campaign data proved critical as it allowed for real-time analysis, which we're very happy to support them with, and also others if you're interested, and also course correction from this analysis where needed. Next slide, please. So I won't go into all the numbers in detail on this slide, but I just wanted to illustrate the proven commercial viability of MIST-based trainings in the case of MNOs. So among MTN customers in Benin and Cameroon that were part of this case study, the training led to an increase in monthly data use of 427 and 231% an increase, respectively, which then translated into increased monthly data ARPU or revenue of 311 and 74%, respectively. So in addition to increasing the volume of data use amongst low data users, the training also connected many new mobile internet users with an increase of over 300,000 active data subscribers in Benin. Next slide, please. And so lastly, but very importantly, I wanted to highlight that in addition to our experience promoting digital inclusion for all people who do not use mobile internet or only use it in a limited capacity, we also have experience supporting partners targeting specific population segments, including in particular women, as well as persons with disabilities. So as such, we're able to offer partners, MIST partners, strategic advice and guidance on how to ensure that women are included in their digital training initiatives, which draws on our experience supporting other partners implementing trainings, as well as the research we conduct that Lonnie went through. So I won't go through all of these, but I'll just mention a few that I think are really we found to be really helpful and impactful. And so to start with, we recommend a mainstreaming approach, by which we mean it's important to think about how to design or modify your general mainstream digital literacy campaign to include women as well as men, rather than having a separate campaign, but really thinking about how to include women as an equal target segment and in reaching them and addressing their needs in your campaign. So I'll run through a few examples of how we found this can be done. So one of the biggest ones is recruiting female trainers and agents to support other female customers with their digital skills needs. This can be particularly helpful in settings where the roles of men and women are very different, and women might feel more comfortable talking to other women or more likely to trust other women than men. So, and then in addition, it's important to ensure that all agents and trainers, whether female or male, are trained on the different needs that women and their specific target population have compared to men. For example, in some contexts and areas, women are less comfortable with mobile phones as they might have had less exposure to them in the past and might need more interactions to be convinced of the value of mobile internet. So it's important to take those needs into consideration in how the training is delivered. It's also very important to consider the time and place of the training, which again, Lonnie had mentioned briefly, and it's worth emphasizing that some women might not have the time or ability to travel very far or be allowed or even feel comfortable to do so. So what we found is that it's really key, and we recommend partners that do implement MIST to deliver these trainings in locations that women are already familiar with and regularly go to, which might be marketplaces, group community centers, and more. And this really can increase the efficacy of the campaign and ensure that women are included. Similar to location, the time of day and duration of the training is a very important consideration to make sure that it meets the needs of women as well as men, because picking a location and time that works for women's different and oftentimes very busy schedules will maximize the chance of reaching a larger cohort for the training, as many women are expected to not only work and take on a number of household chores and work and child rearing. So taking into consideration their diverse and busy schedule will make it more likely that they're able to attend and benefit from a training. So there are many more considerations and tips. These are just a few high-level ones that we found to be useful, and we'd be happy to share more. And also, I encourage you to reach out to us for support as we can develop a more tailored approach to your specific context and explore the resources on our website. Next slide, please. So thank you for listening to Lonnie and I. I hope it's inspired many of you to take advantage of our insights and the toolkit itself. We'd love to hear what you think and any questions, and answer any questions you might have. So please do add them to the chat if you haven't already done so. And if we aren't able to get to your question during today's webinar because of time or perhaps complexity, do follow up with us via email afterwards. So let's look. Yeah. Please, Lonnie.
Okay, so I saw a comment from earlier that I thought we should highlight. So someone says, I guess it's because a lack of education exists to drive adoption, especially among the poor and inaccessible population. So yes, the toolkit that Bryce has just described was developed because we identified a need for training materials that organizations and stakeholders could take and adapt to support their own digital skills or mobile digital skills training efforts, particularly with target segments who are at the kind of beginning of the learning journey and are really kind of learning the basic skills to be able to use mobile internet. So that's just a response to a comment, first of all.
Yeah, no, I think very, very true. And it's complex because certainly education is absolutely an element, as are all the other aspects that you mentioned, and really the relevance. Just like, because as with anyone else, including ourselves, you will only really use a product if you see a relevant use case to your life, and so that's true with all socioeconomic demographics, men and women. So it's about sort of making that case to your customer or user. So and then I see another question here that, oh, sorry, Lonnie, what were you gonna say?
No, I was saying absolutely.
Excellent. And then another question from the chat, from the comments, is about incentives. So it says, it would be great to hear any advice you have about incentives. For example, how can providers incentivize trainers to train customers on MIST? Yeah, so a very important question. And I'd add to that also how to encourage the customers or the users, your target learners, to want to take your training. So in terms of, to start with the trainers, what we found, at least in our support to MNOs, which again could be different with other groups, but I think it is applicable to other organizations. But really, offering a commission is a tried and true sort of method, because that really does get them to go out there and try to push the trainings, and also it encourages them to make sure that people are really onboarded. So there's a lot of different validation concerns and also ways to address it. That if you are interested in sort of going that route, we found there are many ways to ensure that the compensation or the commission that you pay, say, a trainer, can be validated to ensure that they're really doing it. But yeah, that would be the number one that we found. And then with the customers themselves, usually again with MNO partners, as that's the bulk of our experience, but again relevant I think to other organizations, is providing customers with a free data bundle. So that way, especially because they're able to explore sort of the use case of mobile internet, or even a discounted data bundle, say it's, if you purchase 50 megabytes, you'll get another 50 free, because then they just have more time to go through and explore the benefits for themselves. Yeah.
Thank you, Bryce. I'm going to comment on another comment here. So the comment is, the need for this technology and rural demography are critical factors to be considered for adoption. I think that we would agree with both of these points here. At the GSMA, we are very much focused on mobile, and if you've read any of our reports, you'll have seen that as we reference at multiple times, mobile is the kind of primary point of access to the internet for many people. So we absolutely, believe in the importance of this particular technology, and also we focus, and particularly with the toolkit that Bryce introduced, we focus a lot on rural populations because we see that they are often kind of a major underserved population. So that's why we definitely believe it's important to understand how to support rural populations to develop their mobile digital skills.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And as Lonnie said, certainly rural is one of our primary focuses along rural populations, along with women, as these two populations in particular tend to be more excluded from mobile internet use. And yeah, so then another question I see from the chat is what would you say is the key learning from partners on the practical implementation of MIST or the toolkit? So of course, many recommendations, and I think as Lonnie and I have mentioned even just a moment ago, the biggest one is really making that use case and making it really specific, if possible, to that individual. So at least when we've seen, say, one-on-one trainings, it's actually thinking about a use case on the spot for that person that you're talking to. So say I've heard from one of the operators in a town where a cinema recently opened up. When the agents went around and talked to people, one of the things that they mentioned was, maybe you've seen a new film or movie at the cinema. You could use YouTube to watch even more content if you like that, or to better understand what those films are going to look like in advance to make sort of informed decisions about your entertainment. So or another example would be, say with they were working, they were talking with fishermen, and they realized one of the main things that these fishermen happen to like to use mobile for is listening to music. So again, it was about showing them how they could use mobile internet to hear not just these pre-recorded sort of playlists that they buy, say, in the market, but actually with mobile internet, they could hear the latest local hits, or also internationally anytime they want. So I think, yeah, the biggest key learning is really making it relevant, not just saying at a regional level or a country level or even a sub-regional level, but it's to that individual, to who you're speaking to, and to think about that. Even if just a small example, we found that it makes a huge difference.
Definitely. And then another question that we have is, what is the number one insight that you found that makes digital skills training more accessible? So I think I might cheat here and give two answers. The first is that it depends on your target population as to what's going to make it most accessible. So I think the really important thing here is to go to or to understand where your target population is most comfortable learning, which is something that I think both Bryce and myself referenced earlier. So if your target population is most comfortable learning in a particular public space or in a particular private space, it's really important to understand that and to try to develop your skills training for that, and to consider other factors related to that. Like are they more comfortable learning one-on-one? Are they more comfortable learning in a group, and so on? So basically, to go to where they are. The same, I think, applies online as well. So if your target population are online in any way, it's important to understand where they are online, like what platforms they're accessing and using online, and go to them and support them in that space, rather than expect that they will come to you. So that's the first part of my answer. The second part of my answer is to say that, again, particularly for people at the very beginning of the learning journey, I think what will make any training most accessible will be to add that face-to-face or that in-person support to really help to encourage learners to keep going, to keep trying, and to reassure them that they are doing the right thing, the right actions.
Great. No, I think lots of very good insights. And if there's one that I could add from at least our experience in supporting implementation, is, as I said, in particular for certain maybe target populations, when you are looking, say, to target specifically women or persons with disabilities or other sort of groups, we found, for one, hopefully our reports will provide some specific insights and tailoring the approach to think about their needs, which Lonnie referenced. But also we found, for example, working with relevant organizations. So if you're an MNO or a government, maybe implementing or delivering that training, it can be really useful, say, to work with women's focused civil society, as well as or say with if you're targeting the elderly, to work with organizations that are already interacting, say, with older persons, or for persons with disabilities as well, to work with organizations on the ground that understand the context and those needs very in great detail, and they can be excellent partners in supporting implementation. So let's see if I'll look at and see if there's any other comments or questions. So we have one here. So what are the ways to overcome the normative factors that restrict mobile usage, especially for women? I think this is a great question. And before I start, do you have anything that you'd like to add on that, Lonnie, from the insight side? Otherwise, I can go with some.
I do, but I just need to think for one moment in order to structure my answer. So if you have anything immediate, please do go ahead.
Sure. No, that's fair enough. So yeah, so a lot of different factors, and sort of in terms of, because you asked about the ways to overcome this. Again, there isn't a one size fits all solution. I went over and or that was written on the slide. It is important to think as I mentioned just a second ago, to work with local groups and experts on the ground that do understand the specific barriers and factors for those particular women and individuals, because it does vary. As we know, women are half of the entire population, and their needs and challenges vary dramatically by context. So I know it's maybe not the most exciting answer, but the truth is really understanding the context, as Lonnie said before, and then I would say also working with people that already are experts on this, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. There are a lot of groups that, generally speaking, in most locations, that have a very good understanding of sort of those barriers and how to overcome them.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Bryce, and I would definitely say that context is everything in relation to this question. It's not going to be the same approach. There is no one size fits all approach to this challenge. I would say that where there are normative factors that are restricting mobile usage, particularly for women, it's really important to include the other people in women's lives who are potentially kind of reinforcing any of those restrictions in the development of your approach. So basically, to include the gatekeepers in your approach. So whether they be, husbands, fathers, mothers-in-law, whoever it is, I think it's very important to include those people and the wider community more generally in your approach to overcoming this barrier and to introducing any kind of mobile digital skills training. So I think in that instance, it's really important to think about how to introduce mobile services and mobile digital skills training in a way that is kind of perceived to be socially acceptable to everyone involved.
Right. Sorry. We're gonna. Do you have something more?
I thought I did, but I think I should stop there.
Sure. No, I'm just going to absolutely. I think all very, very true from what we've seen. And the other factor that I would add is really making, in addition, as Lonnie said, to make it socially acceptable, but I think the other bit in terms of gender transformative sort of skills delivery, it's about trying to change those social behaviors and norms because if you really want to drive usage and adoption, that's sort of the very beginning place to start and to make the case for as Lenny was saying, unfortunately to the gatekeepers about how allowing, say, the women in their family or in their life to use mobile is going to benefit them, which it isn't obviously the ideal circumstance, but we found that to be actually the most effective. So if you can show, say, their husband or mother-in-law that if she's trained on, say, mobile internet, it will bring more income for the family, or it'll better educate their children, and it'll have some positive externality for the others. That helps to sort of change those norms and to sort of really sell the business case of why, because you do, as Lonnie said, you need the gatekeepers buy-in, and I think it's making that in a sense a business case to them. But how would it benefit themselves? Because just sort of from a human behavior perspective. But a good question. Lonnie, I think you're on mute if you're trying to talk.
Thank you. Also, I was saying we also have an interesting comment here that a model we are testing is monetizing business relationships between rural facilitators and rural farmers associations. The virtual marketplace, for example, is a space that has really opened up the potentials for rural market integration for access, partnerships, support, personalized business branding, etc. We can identify and create jobs for young, vibrant local facilitators that have the skill set to drive the agenda. I think that's a really interesting model that is being tested. And speaking of that importance of focusing on rural populations as well.
Yeah, and we've also seen the success of this, not from our support necessarily, but just as a model in China with the advent years ago with the advent of sort of e-commerce that it lifted millions of people in China out of poverty because they were able to sell their products to major cities and overseas. And I think this is a very useful model for success that has implications around the world by increasing sort of access to markets beyond their sort of physical or geographic area. And then, do you want me to? I'll read out the next question. We have another question here. It said, in our country, we take one step forward and several steps back. Internet currently incurs a 12% tax, and this affects uptake of mobile internet in the rural population, which is the biggest part of my country's population. While we are pushing for digital literacy initiatives, policies take us backwards. What advice does the GSMA have to this country? I guess we don't know which country that is, unfortunately, from the question, but I would say the GSMA, not necessarily Lonnie and I, but our policy team, they work very hard, sorry, I apologize for my cough, to really make that enabling environment. And the GSMA is very much committed, both M4D as well as the wider GSMA, to ensuring a more progressive tax environment and incentives. So yeah, if you are interested, certainly take a look at our website. And but advice is a hard one, but we work on this actively. We have a huge team that is every day working on these issues. So
I think that might be everything, Bryce.
Yes, and I think we're also a minute away from the hour, so it's probably a good idea to wrap it up here. And if you do have additional questions, please do get in touch with us. We'd love to explore partnerships, or if you have questions on insights, Lonnie and the rest of our insights team, I'm sure would be very happy to go into more detail and nuances about the research. Yeah. Thank you very much for listening and for tuning in today. I hope it's been useful.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Take care.